Mike Miller, Herald Times, columnist Andy Graham, John Blau with the extra help today.
Hey, John really hustled. He came from the Bloomington South football game, which was postponed Friday night, kicked off at 11 a.m. at Franklin Central, and made it back here for the start of the IU game. So he deserves some sort of medal, or at least a piece of pizza. But unfortunately, the pizza ran out in the press area here before he got back up from his interview.
I'm just happy that we have the windows open now. The general press box isn't open, and I hate to be a whiny sports writer, but it was super hot in here. I'm sure that the fans out there is actually pretty good attendance, all things considered.
Oh, it was really good. Actually, the students showed up in impressive numbers despite the heat. And
announced crowd was 36,000.
Well, that's tickets sold, and I'd say probably maybe 25 to 30.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
And I thought it would probably be between 15, 20, all things considered, with the heat and
the traffic issues,
and
all of that. So, but we should probably talk about the game a little bit, even though it was not aesthetically pleasing.
You mentioned this in your column, and I think this is worth repeating. Our friend of the Scoop, friend of a lot of things, Chronic Hoosier. Let's never talk about this game ever again. Ever again.
It is our duty and our job to talk about it.
One last time we're going to talk about it, and then never again. I promise.
Although I also said in my column, as abysmal and awful as much of the performance was, especially on defense for Indiana, they might end up really valuing this day. If this is a team that wants to have bowl aspirations, the fact that it was one of these instead of one of these.
I don't think anyone saw that.
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, if it's a D, anyway, the fact it was a W instead of an L, they might end up really valuing that by the end of this season.
Yeah, it's certainly gonna, for a lot of folks who, we've kind of been talking about this team and how we think that the front seven especially will be better. First of all, we should mention the
suspensions.
Nine guys suspended, 2 starters, Darius Latham and Tigray Scales, 2 other contributors, Ralph Green and
Greg Gooch. And those are regular rotation guys.
Yeah, and then beyond that, you had Chase Dutra with an unspecified injury.
And that was probably the most significant loss of all, even though he was not one of the suspended guys. Right. He's apparently sustained an injury in practice this week. Don't know what it is. He was observed on the sidelines with a knee brace on. Kevin Wilson, after the game, declined to characterize it as a serious injury, so hopefully for Chase and the squad it isn't. But his absence was a huge deal in terms of they were really counting on him to orchestrate the secondary out there. And I'm sure he had an influence. In fact, John, talk about what John Crawford said. John Crawford's a true freshman safety, and he said that Dutra influenced the game anyhow. John, did you hear me?
Oh, no, he didn't know. It was me. No,
that was you?
I talked to Crawford.
Oh, I'm sorry. My fault.
First game for everybody.
We were sharing quotes after the game, and I thought it was John that had it.
It was, Dutra not having was, certainly significant because, we've kind of gone through this whole preseason where we've talked about the inexperience in the youth in that secondary. And Dutra, right when Antonio Allen was dismissed, he kind of walked into Kevin Wilson's office and said, "I want to be that guy. I'll be the leader of this guy. I got this. I'll take it from here." So they've kind of been, referring to him as the quarterback of this secondary. And so I kind of asked John Crawford about that and, not having him on a day like this. And he kind of said, well, Chase was still there. I mean, it still felt like Chase was in the game. He was on the sideline. He was talking to us every time we came to the field. So he still had an impact in a way. But, man, that secondary was not what it probably should have been with him out there. I mean, you had to – Crawford, all things considered, played well.
Oh, he did.
8 tackles, blocked a field goal. I think I'm missing something else too.
No, but
he saved the touchdown the first play of the game.
First play of the game, right up the gut.
But it was a rotating secondary, much like many of the positions rotated on a hot day. I mean, at one point, I think we saw John Crawford and Mario Swan out there at the same time. But,
to start a series.
Yeah, Keontae and Crawford both started. And actually, Crawford said he found out he was starting like 2 weeks ago. Like they gave him an indication that he was going to start this game. It was never official, but he kind of had an idea, which,
And he would have been starting alongside Dutra because Dutra is now the free safety and Crawford's been working the strong safety.
But they missed that presence.
There's no doubt that they did. I mean, and there were some broken coverages, and I'm not necessarily laying that on the secondary. A couple of times Indiana failed to cover the tight end, and it was a tight end that they knew was a threat coming in, and just didn't cover him at all. I mean, just ran totally free down the field, and I think it might have been a linebacker's responsibility.
On the first one, on the 68-yard play.
I think it was. It looked like he ran right past Simmons, and I'm not even sure it was Simmons' responsibility, but it looked like it.
And I think it was Walton and Fields out on that one, too.
Yeah, and there were no safeties deep. Indiana blitzed on that play.
Yeah.
And so, in any case, it was a screw-up. And one would think that with Dutra on the field, there probably would have been fewer screw-ups. And the other thing that the suspensions did, and I don't want to play this up too much because, frankly, even Indiana's number 2 guys ought to be able to be physically competitive with Southern Illinois. But what it did on a hot day, normally a big advantage a Big Ten team has over a Missouri Valley Conference team is greater depth, more big guys to rotate in and keep fresh. And on a day like today, that could be huge. And what the suspensions did was largely rob Indiana of that advantage because they didn't have as much depth as they would have normally had in their front seven.
When you look at the box score tonight, whenever, when you look at the defensive stats, you're only going to see 1 sack. I thought at times there was a bit of a more natural pass rush that they had, but still a bit of a work in progress.
Yeah, not enough. And obviously Latham is maybe the best athlete on the front seven. They didn't have him. Gooch is kind of a natural edge rusher. They moved to Bandit. They didn't have him. Tigray Scales is their fastest linebacker probably. And he's great coming in on stunts. They didn't have him. Blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, they were without guys. But I want John to talk a little bit here and talk a little bit about Ionati, the quarterback for Southern Illinois, who was really he was the dominant player of the game. And so, John, talk a little bit about what he was able to do.
Oh, yeah. He was able to use his legs, and we looked it up after the game. He only had 134 yards the entire season last year. And he had, how many yards did he have today? You got him, Mike?
106 rushing.
106.
106 on the ground.
He threw for over 400.
411 through the air. So, I mean, he was obviously effective in both phases of the game. You talked to him after, he just was seemed like he was just happy to be here and be in this situation. I mean, obviously gut-wrenching to lose at the end the way they...
Perfect pass from him, too.
Oh, yeah, on the 2-point conversion. He made the play he needed to make.
Right, and the wide receiver is actually his roommate. And he said he's probably not going to bring it up because, he's harder on himself than he is even on himself. So.
Well, if I did bring it up, I would remind the kid that he might not get it in any way because Andre Brown, a true freshman for Indiana, really made a play on that. I mean, as it turned out, the guy dropped the ball before Brown contacted him, but I think Andre contacted him at about the 1 and wrapped him pretty well, and he wasn't probably going to get in anyhow.
The ball was being bobbled, but Brown had lunged, and he was right there. He was coming. I mean, it would have been interesting to see if he'd actually gotten a clean grip on that ball, what would have happened. But I'll tell you, it was funny because I talked to Mark Oliver after the game. Were you expecting this guy to be running all over the place? He said, we had no idea this kid was like this. So.
Well, but once he started doing it, they just didn't adjust quickly enough. I mean, look, I'm not a coach, but what they were doing, I mean, anytime you run your quarterback that much, that adds a blocker to the scheme, essentially. And beyond that, they were using some unbalanced stuff. So they were outnumbering Indiana in places. And yet, I also saw Indiana front line guys not being able to shed blocks. I saw linebackers not showing up. It was not a good performance. But part of the credit goes to Southern Illinois because, to use a phrase Kevin Wilson likes to use, they worked them. They schemed them a bit. And it was very successful, especially in the first half.
And this has been 8 minutes of mostly negative things, and frankly, I think it's all warranted. Very concerning opening week performance. But there was, I think, for a lot of the people who've been around and kind of watched this program the last few years, seeing Ricky Jones end up with 186 and the touchdown today was really nice, just kind of considering all the injuries and all the things he's kind of been through the last couple of years.
Totally.
Great. He knew he was going to be a starter. Everyone's kind of been talking about him going out to the boundary now. He used to be a slot guy. But Nate Sudfeld's looking for a guy, and kind of between him and Mitchell Page, Ricky Jones is one of the guys he really feels most comfortable with right now.
I really felt happy for Ricky after what he's been through with the ankle injuries, and that 71-yarder that set up what proved to be the winning score was as pretty as it gets. I mean, it was a good throw, obviously, but Ricky had to adjust to the ball in midair. Then he made a couple of guys miss and got it all the way down to the 1. Heck of a play. And, Indiana made enough plays. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're talking about what ended up being, 48 points on Indiana's side, too. So it wasn't as if Jordan Howard didn't show up. I mean, he scored 3 times in his debut.
As advertised, basically.
Yep, as advertised.
What did he end up with? 180, or excuse me, that was 145.
145.
57 from Divine Redding, which is kind of, I think, the breakdown we're going to see most often this year.
I mean, Jordan averaged 7.2 yards a carry. Nate Sudfeld pretty much as expected. Offensive line had a couple of mistakes, but pretty much as expected. This was really a defensive disappointment. When you're going to talk about disappointment, it was so abjectly awful, so abysmal that it kind of colored everything else.
Yeah.
And it made everybody go away with a bad feeling about the game. But you know what? It's a W at the end of the day. If they end up qualifying for a bowl and having a good season, people will forget about how this transpired today, and the W is what's going to count.
Yeah, I mean, things were kind of squirrely last year, even in that Bowling Green game. They came back the next week and kind of probably what I think was
their best game,
best defense,
beating Missouri
everything.
on the road. Yeah.
So first games are first games. I mean, it's nothing to really cast a whole lot of generalizations about. Although, you kind of look at the flip side. Next week is Florida International, and they upset Central Florida on the road, and they seem to be a team that's actually going to be pretty for real here coming in here. I mean, Central Florida was not a team that was going to challenge in their conference this year. It's still kind of swinging back up after losing Blake Bortles and a few others. But, that was an impressive win to kind of go down there. And so.
Well, John, what do coaches say about the first week to the second week? Even high school coaches?
You gotta get better.
Yeah.
Your biggest improvement.
It's generally the biggest improvement that any team sees. And Indiana, I think, will recognize and be hungry for improvement after this game. And maybe that's one positive element of it. They are going to learn immense lessons from this without having to pay the ultimate price.
Yeah, a lot to follow this week. We'll see kind of who's available on some of the suspensions. We'll see, check on the status of Chase Dutra this week, see what's happening. We'll see you guys in the next few days. See ya.